When someone rejects you, your instincts scream to react. You want to explain, to prove them wrong, to show your worth. That's the ego talking, desperate for validation, terrified of silence. But here's the truth. Silence is power. Most people waste their energy trying to argue their value instead of becoming too disciplined to need to. When you're rejected, don't justify, don't defend, pause. The mind will beg to speak. Your discipline must refuse. Because silence is not weakness, it's a weapon. Every word you say in emotional chaos costs you composure. Every moment you stay silent earns you control. The Stoics knew this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Rejection is not the problem. Reaction is. You can't control the no you received, but you can master the storm inside you. So next time rejection hits, don't react, observe. Let silence do the speaking. When rejection hits, most people crumble because they've tied their worth to outcomes. You are not most people. You are training for inner mastery. When the door closes, your silence must become a declaration of self-respect. Don't chase. Don't explain. Don't beg. Let them feel your absence. Your calm is more intimidating than any argument you could make. You don't need to defend what's already solid. Weak men talk, disciplined men observe. Adapt and move with purpose. Every rejection is a mirror revealing what's still fragile inside you. If you can't stay silent after being dismissed, it means your ego still runs your life. But if you can hold still, breathe through the sting, and refuse to react, you become untouchable. The world respects those who cannot be shaken. Remember, the strongest voice in the room is often the one that says nothing. Let your silence announce your strength. Let your restraint redefine your identity. Rejection hurts because you're still attached to outcomes. You wanted it to work. You wanted them to see your value. And when they didn't, you felt exposed. But Stoicism teaches you this. The pain isn't in the event, it's in your attachment. When you let go of the need for approval, rejection loses its power. You don't chase people or positions that fail to recognize your worth. You simply observe, learn, and move on. Detachment isn't coldness, it's clarity. You're not numb. You're focused. When you stay silent after rejection, you are training your mind to separate emotion from action. You're proving that your peace is not up for negotiation. This is how self-discipline is forged, not in grand victories, but in quiet moments where you choose stillness over reaction. Each time you stay silent, you build a fortress inside you, unshakable, steady, and calm. That is real power. Every time you resist the urge to defend yourself, you gain strength. Every moment you stay quiet instead of explaining, you sharpen your edge. The weak respond to rejection with noise. The strong respond with composure. Your silence unsettles people because it reveals confidence they can't understand. You're not ignoring them. You're mastering yourself. The man who can hold silence in the middle of emotional chaos is the man who owns himself. Rejection becomes irrelevant when you realize you don't need anyone's validation to confirm your worth. The Stoics called this inner citadel, a fortress of calm built through discipline. Each rejection is a test. Will you lose control or stay unbothered? Let others explain. Complain and justify. You stay still. You analyze. You adapt. The quiet ones aren't passive. They're calculating. Use rejection to grow sharper. Calmer, more grounded. Turn silence into your armor. The moment rejection hits, your ego screams for attention. It wants to prove something. It wants to be heard, seen, justified. That's the trap. Every reaction born from ego weakens your position. The Stoic warrior doesn't rush to defend. He pauses, breathes, and lets time reveal what emotion tries to hide. When you stay silent, you starve the ego of the chaos it feeds on. You strip away its control. The one who can control silence can control himself. Silence is not the absence of communication. It's the presence of power. The world expects noise. It expects you to react, to justify, to explain. Don't. Let the silence make them question their decision. Let your calm disturb their certainty. True strength is measured not by how loud you are, but by how little you need to speak. Learn to weaponize your silence. Let it become your answer, your armor, and your discipline. Rejection isn't punishment. It's a mirror. It shows you where your attachments, fears, and insecurities still hide. Most people run from that mirror. They distract themselves with noise, excuses, and stories. But the disciplined one, the Stoic warrior, sits with the discomfort in silence. No running, no defending, no seeking pity. just observation. This is how growth happens. Not by reacting, but by reflecting. Stillness reveals truth. The moment you stop talking and start listening to your own thoughts, you begin to see clearly. You see where you've been depending on external validation. You see where your worth has been outsourced to others' opinions. And when that realization hits, something changes. You begin to detach. You start moving from desperation to self-command. Silence teaches you patience, humility, and control. Stay with it long enough, and rejection becomes your greatest teacher. When you get rejected, your instinct is to move fast, to fix, to defend, to prove. But wisdom lives in the pause. That brief silence between the rejection and your reaction is where power is built. Most people rush to respond because stillness terrifies them. They think silence means weakness, when in truth, it's the highest form of control. In that pause, you're not frozen. You're gathering your strength. You're seeing things as they are, not as your ego paints them. The Stoics trained for this moment daily. Marcus Aurelius didn't react. He observed. Epictetus didn't argue. He accepted, then acted with purpose. The pause is where you separate emotion from decision. It's where your higher self steps in and says, wait, don't give them your power. Master that space, and rejection loses its teeth. The pause is your weapon. Use it, guard it, live inside it. Most people collapse when their pride is hit. They let emotions take the wheel, and their reactions destroy their credibility. But you're here to train a different instinct. When you choose silence, you're not suppressing emotion. You're mastering it. Composure is not born from calm circumstances. It's forged in chaos. Rejection is your training ground. Every silent moment after rejection hardens your spirit, strengthens your focus, and refines your control. The man who stays calm when insulted, ignored, or rejected, that man becomes untouchable. Silence builds an aura around you. People can sense it, the steady power, the unmovable energy. They realize they can't manipulate what doesn't react. Remember, those who can remain composed under pressure dominate those who can't. Your silence says, I don't need to fight for approval. I already know who I am. That is the calm of a warrior. Anyone can stay calm when life agrees with them. But when you're rejected, dismissed, or overlooked, that's when your discipline is tested. Do you fold or do you hold? Rejection exposes whether your self-control is real or just theory. It's easy to talk about Stoicism when you're comfortable. It's another thing to live it when your pride bleeds. The disciplined man doesn't rush to prove anything. He knows that silence is not retreat, it's strategy. He watches, learns, and grows stronger. The undisciplined man defends, argues, and spirals. The disciplined one, he uses rejection as resistance training. Every no becomes a rep that builds emotional muscle. That's how you win, not by fighting the world, but by mastering yourself. Rejection doesn't break you, it reveals you. Let silence be your proof. You don't announce strength, you demonstrate it through restraint. Rejection is a perfect reminder of what you can and cannot control. You can't control who accepts you, praises you, or believes in you, but you can control your reaction. And that's where your freedom lives. The average person wastes energy trying to force outcomes. The Stoic focuses only on his own discipline. He doesn't demand acceptance. He demands mastery over his own emotions. When you stay silent after rejection, you are practicing this law in real time. You are proving that you refuse to be ruled by outside opinions. The world cannot break a man who has control over himself. Marcus Aurelius said it best. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Rejection only stings when you give it power. Take that power back through silence. Control your inner world, and no rejection can shake you. You don't beg for peace, you build it through mastery. Rejection isn't the end, it's the echo of misalignment. But here's what most never learn. Silence echoes louder than arguments. When you stop explaining, defending, or chasing, people start to feel the weight of your absence. Your silence speaks the language of self-respect. It says, I don't need to convince you. I already know my worth. That unsettles people more than any speech ever could, because the world expects you to react, to beg for closure, to plead for approval. When you don't, they realize they never had power over you to begin with. Your silence forces reflection, not only in them, but in you. You start to see who deserves your energy and who doesn't. The moment you walk away quietly, you elevate yourself above the noise. Let them wonder, let them rethink. The silent man commands attention long after he's gone. Silence doesn't mean emptiness, it means control. Inside your quiet, there's fire. You're not ignoring the pain of rejection, you're channeling it. You take the sting, the disappointment, the frustration, and you turn it into discipline. That's what separates you from the ordinary. Most people burn their energy in emotional outbursts. You store yours and convert it into power. Every time you stay silent, you're sharpening your blade. The heat is still there, you just aim it. The Stoic doesn't suppress fire, he learns to command it. Rejection becomes fuel, pain becomes strategy. Silence becomes the container that holds your strength. And here's the paradox. The calmer you appear, the more force you actually carry. Stillness doesn't mean surrender. It means you're building pressure for your next move. Master your silence, and the world will never see you coming. When rejection strikes, a silence isn't confinement, it's reflection. It's the mirror that shows you who you are without the noise of ego or emotion. Most people fear silence because it reveals truth. It strips away their excuses and exposes what's real. But if you're brave enough to face that reflection, silence becomes your greatest ally. It shows you where you've been chasing validation, where your boundaries are weak, where your focus has drifted. You start to see clearly. The rejection didn't define you. It revealed where your strength needed to grow. The Stoic doesn't waste energy blaming or defending. He studies himself. He asks, what can I learn from this pain? Every quiet moment after rejection is a chance to grow wiser, calmer, sharper. Use it. Let silence reflect your next evolution. Don't escape it. Stare into it until the truth transforms you. Words are cheap. Anyone can talk about strength, but composure proves it. When rejection hits, the world watches how you respond. Lose control, and you confirm weakness. Stay calm, and you command respect. The Stoic doesn't need to announce his confidence. It radiates from his silence. Your composure becomes your message. I am not desperate. I am disciplined. That presence alone shifts power back into your hands. People expect anger, pleading, or defensiveness. But when you deliver stillness, it unsettles them. They see a person who cannot be emotionally manipulated. That's authority. Your calm shows mastery. Your restraint shows class. In a noisy world, the one who speaks least is often the one most listened to. Don't argue for respect. Embody it. Don't explain your worth. Demonstrate it through composure. Silence is the language of the unshakable. You will be tested when you least expect it. A message left unread. An opportunity denied. A person walking away. And suddenly, your emotions rise like a storm. That's the moment discipline is either real or fake. The weak chase closure, the strong control themselves. You don't owe the world an explanation for your silence. You owe yourself peace. Every time you resist the urge to react, you're proving mastery over your impulses. That's the battlefield of modern Stoicism, not swords or shields, but the war between reaction and restraint. Epictetus taught that no one can hurt you unless you allow it. When you stay silent, you choose not to be controlled. You refuse to feed drama. You deny chaos its victory. This is the highest form of self-respect, to remain grounded when everything tries to pull you off balance. Rejection exposes emotion. Silence reclaims power. The first rush of rejection burns hot. The sting, the humiliation, the anger, but emotions are waves. They crash, then fade. Discipline, on the other hand, is permanent. It's the anchor beneath the surface. When you stay silent, you let the wave pass without drowning in it. You give time a chance to turn pain into perspective. That's what separates the wise from the impulsive. Most people react to protect their ego, but you protect your peace. The disciplined man doesn't let temporary feelings create permanent damage. He doesn't send the message, make the call, or post the words he'll regret later. He sits in silence until the storm subsides. Then, when the emotion has cooled, he acts from strength, not weakness. That's mastery. Remember this truth. Emotion fades, but the consequences of reaction don't. Silence guards your future, while your discipline rebuilds your focus. There's a sacred gap between what happens to you and how you respond. Most people never see it. They live in automatic reaction. But that small space is where transformation lives. When rejection hits, you have a choice. React from ego or respond from wisdom. Silence gives you access to that choice. It slows time. It lets you breathe before your pride takes over. The Stoics trained daily for that pause. They rehearsed adversity in their minds so they could meet real pain with calm precision. You can do the same. When the sting of rejection hits, stop. Observe your thoughts like clouds passing. Don't grab any of them. Just watch. That is the space where your power lives. The one who reacts is a slave to emotion. The one who pauses becomes a master of himself. That's the difference between chaos and control, between suffering and strength. Guard that space like your life depends on it, because it does. Rejection only hurts when you've made someone else the judge of your worth. Let that sink in. When you depend on approval, you hand over your power. The Stoic way is different. Your value is internal, unshakable, and self-defined. No silence. No closed door can reduce it. When you stay quiet after rejection, you're sending yourself a message. I don't need their validation to know who I am. That's real confidence. Quiet. Grounded. Undeniable. People confuse validation with connection, but they're not the same. Validation is borrowed energy. It fades when the giver leaves. Self-worth is your own current. It never stops flowing. When you choose silence, you're cutting the cord that keeps you dependent on other people's opinions. You stand on your own foundation. That's where freedom begins. Rejection doesn't shrink your value. It just exposes where you've been giving too much of it away. After rejection, the mind craves closure. It wants to know why. It wants answers, explanations, something to make sense of the pain. But chasing closure often traps you in the very story you need to outgrow. You don't need their explanation. You need your own clarity. And that comes from silence. When you stop running after answers, truth finds you. The Stoics understood that peace comes from acceptance, not justification. You can't force understanding from someone who doesn't see your worth. What you can do is step back, detach, and reflect in silence. Clarity appears, like a lake settling after a storm. You begin to realize it wasn't rejection. It was redirection. The path wasn't closed, it was corrected. Closure is external, clarity is internal. Don't chase what you can't control. Sit in the quiet, let perspective replace the noise. That's how you turn rejection into wisdom. There's a rare kind of power in walking away without a word. Not because you're cold or defeated, but because you've realized your energy is too valuable to waste explaining your worth. That's dignity. The moment you choose silence over reaction, you reclaim your self-respect. You stop trying to prove what was never meant to be proven. The Stoics knew this truth deeply. Seneca said, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay, and silence is that delay, turned into mastery." You don't walk away in bitterness, you walk away in balance. You no longer need to win arguments. You've already won yourself. Your silence isn't surrender, it's sovereignty. You're not leaving the situation because you lost. You're leaving because you've evolved past it. Let your exit speak louder than words. The disciplined man doesn't chase, he ascends. When you walk away quietly, you remind the world. Peace is the highest form of strength. Modern society worships noise, constant talking, posting, explaining. Everyone wants to be heard. Few want to understand, but a Stoic warrior knows the opposite truth. Stillness is not weakness, it's dominance in disguise. When you can stay quiet in the middle of emotional chaos, you're untouchable. People will misread your silence. They'll call it indifference, pride, maybe even fear. Let them. You're not here to correct their perception. You're here to master your mind. Stillness is not about doing nothing. It's about doing the right thing at the right time. The undisciplined react fast, the wise move precisely. Silence sharpens your perception. You hear what others miss. You see what emotion blinds. The one who can remain still sees reality clearly, while the rest are busy proving themselves. Remember, lions don't roar to prove strength. They rest in it. Rejection is emotional, but emotion doesn't have to control you. The disciplined mind knows how to feel without falling apart. Emotional distance isn't coldness, it's clarity. It's the ability to observe your pain without becoming it. When you're rejected, you'll feel the sting. That's human. But what you do next decides everything. Most people drown in self-pity or lash out in frustration. The Stoic does neither. He steps back, breathes, and studies the moment like a scientist examining data. He asks, "What is this trying to teach me?" That's how you turn rejection into education. Emotional distance gives you perspective. It lets you separate your identity from the event. You realize, I am not this rejection. I am the awareness watching it. That shift changes everything. You stop reacting to life and start mastering it. Feel deeply, but think clearly. That's real strength. Rejection isn't meant to destroy you. It's meant to sculpt you. Every no chips away at the parts of you that crave comfort, approval, and validation. What remains is your core, strong, sharp, unbreakable. Most people take rejection personally. The Stoic takes it as refinement. The warrior mindset sees every setback as a whetstone for discipline. Silence is your chisel. Each time you resist the urge to react, you're carving away weakness. You're training your emotions to obey reason. Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal, loss, and endless criticism. Yet his response was calm action, never emotional noise. Why? Because he understood that rejection reveals where your attachments still own you. Don't curse it. Use it. The world isn't rejecting you. It's redirecting you toward mastery. Pain polishes purpose. Rejection doesn't end your path. It straightens it. Everyone wants to appear powerful, but few have the strength to stay restrained. Restraint is not inaction. It's command. It's knowing you could speak, argue, or strike back, but you choose not to. That's dominance. The weak prove strength by reacting. The strong prove it by holding still. Restraint is the highest form of control because it requires mastery over the self. When you stay silent after rejection, you're not avoiding conflict. You're asserting superiority over impulse. The Stoics understood this as temperantia, balance, moderation, the refusal to be a slave to emotion. True power isn't loud. It's contained. Fire inside the furnace burns hotter than fire left wild. Your silence is that furnace. It holds your force until it's time to release it with precision. Every moment of restraint builds credibility, respect, and authority. Remember, self-control is the final proof of strength. Rejection triggers urgency, the desperate urge to explain, defend, fix, now, but urgency is the enemy of wisdom. The Stoic warrior doesn't rush to reclaim approval. He lets time fight on his behalf. Because time always reveals truth. When you stay silent, you allow perspective to mature. People who once doubted you begin to see your consistency, your calm, your progress. Silence backed by results is louder than any argument. Let your growth speak the words you refuse to say. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Time is a sort of river. Everything passes, and nothing stays. Your emotions are temporary. Your evolution is not. Don't waste your energy proving your worth in the moment. Instead, become so focused on improvement that your success becomes the response. Rejection may feel final today, but time has a way of turning loss into proof. Be patient." Silence plus time equals vindication. When life shuts a door in your face, your first instinct is to knock harder. Stop! That's reaction. Stoics don't waste energy trying to reopen what wasn't meant for them. They rebuild. Every rejection is a redirection toward refinement. Silence is not the end of your effort. It's the beginning of your reconstruction. Use it. Sit in that quiet space and ask yourself, what needs sharpening? What did this teach me about my approach, my focus, my mindset? The undisciplined react emotionally and stay stuck. The disciplined rebuild silently and come back stronger. Remember, your greatest growth doesn't come from applause, but from correction. Let rejection break your illusions, not your spirit. Don't waste your breath explaining your potential. Prove it through action. The Stoic doesn't fight to be accepted. He evolves until he cannot be ignored. Rebuild with purpose. Rise without noise. Every reaction spends energy. Every argument drains focus. The undisciplined waste both on things they can't control. The Stoic treats energy like gold, invested only where it multiplies growth. Rejection is one of the fastest ways to expose where you've been overspending emotionally. When you chase validation, you bankrupt your peace. When you stay silent, you save it. Think of your energy as sacred currency. Would you spend it trying to convince someone who already made their choice? No, you'd invest it in progress, in mastery, in becoming undeniable. Silence is how you protect that energy. It's not retreat, it's strategy. Every second you stay quiet, you're redirecting energy from reaction to rebuilding. The disciplined don't waste fuel on fires that don't deserve light. Protect your energy like your life depends on it, because your growth does. Silence isn't just the absence of speech, it's the presence of awareness. When you stop talking, you start seeing, after rejection, the undisciplined react, the Stoic observes. Observation gives you power. You begin to notice what really happened, not the story your ego told, but the reality underneath. Who truly valued you? What expectations were false? Where did you ignore warning signs? Silence turns you from a victim into an analyst. The Stoics understood this. Emotion clouds perception, but silence clears the lens. Observation transforms rejection from chaos into clarity. You start seeing patterns, not punishments. Lessons, not losses. The quiet mind gathers data, sharpens understanding, and move strategically. The talker burns out. The observer builds vision. Don't just endure rejection, study it. Every no hides a map to your next evolution, but only silence lets you read it. Rejection isn't the wall you think it is. It's a signpost. The weak see the end, the wise see direction. Every rejection carries a message, but only the silent can hear it. When you stop reacting, you give yourself the distance to see the bigger picture. Maybe that job, that person, that opportunity wasn't meant to elevate you. It was meant to expose your next level. The Stoic never wastes pain. He repurposes it. When life says no, he doesn't crumble. He pivots. Silence gives you the mental space to turn reaction into redirection. Don't let emotion blind you to opportunity. The universe isn't rejecting your value. It's refining your path. Each closed door is just steering you closer to alignment. When you stop fighting rejection and start listening to it, everything changes. What looks like loss today will reveal itself as strategy tomorrow. Rejection can make you question who you are, but it's also your chance to redefine yourself. Most people beg for another chance. You don't. You turn inward. You use silence as the space to rebuild identity on your own terms. The Stoics taught that adversity is not what breaks you. It's what clarifies you. When you stop explaining, you start evolving. Silence becomes the furnace that burns away false identities, the need to be liked, the urge to please, the hunger for validation. What's left is authenticity, sharp and grounded. Rejection strips away illusions so you can meet your real self, the one who doesn't depend on applause to move forward. Let silence sculpt you into someone even rejection can't define. You are not who they said no to. You are who rose quietly afterward. Redefine yourself in silence. Re-emerge in strength. Rejection tempts you to explain, to rewrite the story, so others see your side. Don't control the story by controlling yourself. The one who stays calm controls the narrative without saying a word. The Stoics mastered this truth. Perception is power. When you react emotionally, you hand that power away. When you stay composed, you shape how others see you. Grounded, disciplined, unmoved. They remember the steadiness, not the rejection. Silence keeps your reputation clean. It tells the world you are too focused on growth to waste time defending your worth. Words can be twisted. Behavior cannot. You don't need to shout your truth. Live it. Every time you remain silent in chaos, you rewrite your story from victim to victor. Control begins where reaction ends. Own your state, and the story always ends in your favor. Rejection feels brutal because your identity is tied to the outcome. You wanted a yes, and when it didn't come, it felt like you lost part of yourself. But the Stoic separates self-worth from success. He measures himself not by the result, but by the effort, the discipline, the consistency he brought to the table. You can't control the outcome, but you can always control your preparation, your execution, and your composure afterward. That's where your peace lives. When you detach from outcome, rejection loses its teeth. You stop needing things to go your way in order to stay centered. The win is not approval. The win is self-mastery. Every time you act with full effort, then release the result, you evolve into something rare, a person unshaken by chance. Effort is your domain. Outcome is the world's. Rule your domain, and the world will eventually bend toward you. When rejection hits, your first impulse is to explain, to prove you were right, worthy, or misunderstood. But the more you explain, the more you shrink. Every defensive word chips away at your dignity. That's why silence is sacred. It shields your pride without turning it into arrogance. It tells the world, I respect myself enough not to plead for validation. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. You don't prove worth. You embody it. Silence lets you do that. It preserves your power, your mystery, your composure. Let others talk themselves into exhaustion. You remain the mountain that doesn't move. Dignity isn't in how loud you fight, but in how quietly you hold your ground. When you let silence guard your self-respect, rejection no longer humiliates. It refines. People test your strength not through kindness, but through rejection. They want to see if you'll beg, break, or bend. Most do. But when you stay silent, calm, grounded, unmoved, they feel something unfamiliar. Respect. Because the world bows to what it cannot shake. Silence proves you're anchored in something deeper than approval. You don't react to disrespect. You outgrow it. You don't chase attention. You earn reverence. Your restraint makes people question their own instability. The Stoics lived by this. Power isn't about control over others. It's about control over self. When you refuse to crumble under pressure, you expose everyone else's fragility. The strongest man in the room isn't the loudest. It's the one who no longer needs to prove his power. Your silence is your presence, and your presence, when disciplined, commands the room without a word. Rejection is neutral. It's your interpretation that gives it power. The Stoics taught this relentlessly. It's not the event that disturbs you, but your judgment of it. Most people hear no and translate it as I'm not good enough. But the disciplined mind pauses and asks, what does this really mean? Maybe it means not now. Maybe it means not here. Maybe it's simply a test of persistence. When you train your mind to interpret instead of react, rejection becomes feedback, not failure. Silence helps you make that shift. It creates distance between the emotion and the lesson. You stop internalizing rejection as a wound and start reading it as information. That's the difference between emotional chaos and emotional mastery. Life doesn't owe you comfort. It offers you data. Learn to read it without ego, and every rejection becomes a map to improvement. The Stoics called it the inner citadel, a fortress within you that no insult, loss, or rejection can breach. You build it every time you choose silence over reaction. Each quiet moment after disappointment is a brick in that wall. Over time, you stop being thrown around by other people's decisions. You become grounded, untouchable. Rejection still arrives, but it can't reach your core. You don't depend on the outside world for peace anymore. The fortress isn't built overnight. It's forged through countless trials, countless no's, countless moments where you refuse to crumble. Silence is your construction tool. Every pause, every breath, every moment of self-control adds another layer of protection. You stop asking for peace because you become peace. Remember this? No one can reject you when your validation comes from within the walls of your own discipline. There's a confidence that doesn't need words, a quiet certainty that radiates without a single explanation. You can't fake it, and you can't force it. It's built through silence, discipline, and self-trust. When you stay silent after rejection, you're not being passive, you're showing that your worth doesn't depend on reaction. The insecure seek to be seen, the secure simply are. You don't have to tell anyone you're valuable, they'll feel it. You don't have to announce your growth, they'll see it. The Stoic walks through rejection like a mountain through a storm. Steady, unmoved, unbothered. That is unspoken confidence, calm, centered, powerful. When you speak less, every word you do say gains weight. When you stop chasing recognition, recognition finds you. Your silence becomes presence. Your presence becomes influence. Speak less. Stand firm. Let your composure do the talking. Every rejection carries hidden instruction. The undisciplined see pain. The Stoic sees a pattern. Silence helps you decode it. When you're not busy defending your ego, you can finally listen, not to others, but to life itself. That closed door wasn't punishment. It was precision. It redirected you from what drains you toward what builds you. Most people keep knocking on the same door out of pride. You don't. You read the signs and pivot with purpose. That's how warriors move. Flexible, not frantic. The world can say no, but you still move forward in alignment. Rejection reveals the wrong room, so you can find the right one. Every time you respond with silence, you step into higher direction. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what is this preparing me for? That mindset turns every loss into movement. Pain becomes your compass. When you're rejected, the story seems out of your hands. But the Stoic knows, whoever controls the frame controls the outcome. The frame is your mindset, the meaning you assign to the event. If you frame rejection as failure, it becomes one. If you frame it as feedback, it becomes fuel. Silence gives you time to reframe before you respond. You stop reacting in weakness and start repositioning in strength. Maybe that no freed you from mediocrity. Maybe it redirected you toward mastery. The situation didn't change. Your perception did. That's the secret of control. The emotional collapse most people suffer isn't caused by rejection itself. It's caused by losing the frame. Stay silent, breathe, and rewrite the meaning before your ego does. Control the narrative inside your head, and the outside world will follow. Rejection doesn't define you. Your frame does. Detachment is not indifference. It's freedom. It's the ability to care deeply and still remain steady when things fall apart. When rejection strikes, detachment says, I gave my best. The rest is not mine to control. That's Stoic strength. It's emotional maturity disguised as calm. The average person mistakes detachment for coldness, but they're wrong. It's self-protection rooted in clarity. You're not running from emotion, you're refusing to be ruled by it. When you master detachment, silence becomes effortless. You don't need to explain or justify, you simply step back, breathe, and let reality unfold. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over. It stands unmoved." That's detachment, calm amid the storm. Rejection loses its sting when your peace is no longer dependent on outcomes. You stop clinging, start observing, and move forward lighter, stronger, freer. Rejection separates the reactive from the refined. The way you respond in those moments reveals your rank in life's hierarchy. The average person reacts instantly. Anger, defense, excuses. The disciplined man pauses. He chooses silence over impulse. That choice alone elevates him. The Stoics believe true nobility comes not from birth or status, but from behavior. That your silence after rejection is a declaration of rank. It says, "I am ruled by reason, not emotion." You're showing that you operate on a higher frequency, one where composure replaces chaos. Let others reveal their instability through noise. You'll reveal your command through calm. In every social, professional, or personal rejection, your reaction is your resume. The quiet, steady mind speaks louder than any justification ever could. Your restraint tells the world you are not desperate. You are disciplined. Every battle you face is first fought within. Rejection, insult, failure. These are just sparks testing how quickly you burn. The untrained mind ignites instantly. The disciplined one smothers the flame before it spreads. Self-command is the Stoic's crown. You win not by conquering others, but by refusing to be conquered by emotion. When you stay silent, you're not avoiding conflict. You're demonstrating authority over yourself. Seneca wrote, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Freedom begins in that split second when you decide not to react. The person who can hold that silence owns every situation. Noise shows desperation. Calm shows dominance. Rejection can bruise your ego, but it can't touch your center unless you let it. Keep your control. That's the quiet victory the world never sees, but always respects. Rejection will always sting, but what you do with that sting defines your future. Most people let it poison them. They carry resentment, bitterness, and self-doubt for years. The Stoic lets rejection polish him. He extracts the lesson, burns away the ego, and moves sharper than before. Silence is the polishing cloth. It keeps your emotions from clouding the lesson. Every time you hold your tongue, you're letting wisdom settle. You start to see patterns, refine strategies, strengthen resolve. Rejection becomes less about loss and more about refinement. It's not happening to you, it's happening for you. Let others drown in self-pity. You'll rise in self-mastery. The world doesn't reward those who react. It rewards those who transform. Let rejection shape you, not scare you. Turn silence into reflection, and reflection into relentless forward motion. Every rejection is a death of expectation, of attachment, of illusion. But in that death lies rebirth. When you refuse to react and instead sit in silence, you shed the version of yourself that depended on approval. What rises is sharper, calmer, and infinitely stronger. The Stoics saw loss not as tragedy, but as transformation. You are not the same person after rejection. You're either bitter or reborn. Silence determines which. In that quiet space, you reset, you rewire your focus. You rise from emotion into evolution. The world won't understand your calm. That's fine. It's not meant to. Your rebirth is private, sacred, disciplined. You no longer chase opportunities. You become one. The silence that once felt like emptiness now feels like power. That's the moment you realize rejection didn't destroy you. It introduced you to your next level. Rejection is inevitable. Reaction is optional. The weak argue, the average complain. The strong stay silent and rise. That's the Stoic way. Silence isn't escape, it's elevation. It's how you protect your dignity, study your lessons, and plan your next move without letting the world see you bleed. Every rejection you've endured has been building your discipline brick by brick. You no longer need applause to validate progress or pity to soothe pain. You've become your own source of strength. Remember, no one can reject what's already complete within itself. So when life says no, stand tall, breathe, stay silent, then move forward with precision. Rise without noise, without bitterness, without fear, because true power isn't loud, it's controlled. And the man who walks away in silence isn't defeated. He's simply too focused on building his next victory. If this message spoke to you, don't just nod and move on. Act. The truth means nothing unless it becomes movement. Rejection, failure, the pain, these are your teachers, but only if you're willing to learn. So starting today, practice the discipline of silence. Don't react, rebuild. Don't chase, evolve. Don't explain, improve. Every quiet moment you master is another brick in your fortress of strength. If you're ready to rise above noise and live with calm, control, and purpose, start now. Take one step toward mastering yourself. Drop a comment below and share what lesson hit you hardest. Thank you for listening. Warrior, this is Stoic psychology, where we don't escape emotions. We master them. Stay strong, stay silent, and as always, keep building your inner power.